Welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. I'm Jeff Allison, and thank you for watching.
Hey guys, welcome to Allison Customs Project Car TV. This video you're going to see me build this spoiler and how it's attached. It's removable, so it can all be body worked, and the deck lid is going to be a different color than the spoiler. So without any more delay, we'll get started here. Thanks for watching. So what I've got is a piece of 2" by 1/4" flat bar that I plan to make a spoiler for this Chevelle out of, and you'll see me grinding on it here in a minute. I've been slowly grinding out the shape of the trunk lid that has a curve to it and everything, and then it has a peak in the center, which we're going to use. I've kind of cut a groove in here, so let me show you that. So I kind of cut a groove in here, and what I plan to do is bend this so that it'll hit the peak of this trunk lid. There's a little, just from there to here, there's actually a peak in the trunk lid, and then it flattens out. And I want to accentuate that by putting a peak in the backside of this, putting the bend essentially right there on that peak. And I've scribed a line here, or marked a line, 1", and I just kind of picked where I thought it looked good. 1" off the trunk lid there, and it comes straight across an inch here. And then this has got the curvature to it. So what I've got is I scribed that line along there simply by holding it up here, getting it pretty close to the angle and everything I thought it would look good at, and then marking it with a marker. And I still need to take, maybe, looks like about another 1/8 of an inch here. So I'll mark it again, get back over there and scribe it out again. So, but it's coming together, it's getting close. My current thinking is that once I get it where I want it, get it all scribed out, is that I will mark on here, probably put 1, 2, 3, at least 4, maybe 6, probably number 10 screws. What I'll do is drill this out on the backside and tap it so that the screws could go right here. We're at the double thickness, so I'll drill all the way through, and then I'll need to put a slug between the two skins so it doesn't squeeze the skin or pull down on this, and then can screw that down on there, and then I'll trim up the edges, and probably going to curve these in just a little bit on each end, kind of put a little bit of shape to it. So right now I guess I just need to rescribe this side onto this metal and keep grinding at it a little bit and see where we get. So I do line up the center marks, get this on our line, and then we want the gap on this end and the gap at the center to be basically the same. And we just run the pin, trying to hold the same angle all the way down, and we get us a new line. And as you can tell, we got some places as little as a 1/16 of an inch to take off. Over here in a couple places, maybe close to 1/8 of an inch. So we'll go back over to the vise, lock this thing in, grind those off. Keep working it until it just fits the skin dead on. Then we'll do the other side the same way. Once we have both, then we'll put the bend in it to match the angle here, and then we'll start trying to figure out where we want to bolt it down at. And then the last thing we'll do is put the curves in on it. And the goal not only is to make a little spoiler, but one of the things we don't want is we don't want it to where somebody can push down on it like that and actually bend the sheet metal or bend the trunk lid or anything. So it needs to be pretty strong coming through there, and I'm not sure just bending it's going to be enough. It may have to have a pie cut out of it, in which case I'll do one side and then the other. So I've been back and forth to the vise with the grinder a couple times, and I may have just a little bit more dressing to do right there. But when I line everything up, it sits pretty darn close. I have maybe a little high spot in here, and possibly like right through here, just, and ever so slightly high. To the point where, I don't want to have too much of a gap to where it would pull up the skin and then make the trunk lid, have little waves in it, because then we just have to body work that. But to the point where we could probably body work the bottom of this and push it on, screw it down, let that harden up, and then pull it back off. Just put tape over the actual trunk lid so it would come back off. But I'll probably do just a little more dressing on both of those ends so it sits down as close as I can get it. And then it'll be time to do the same thing over here. And once this side, which right now, if you get one side in place, the other side's about 3/8 of an inch off, so there's quite a bit of material that has to come out of the middle. That side's very close, and that's about all I'm looking for, is just a subtle spoiler. Nothing outrageous, nothing real large. The goal is to make this in black and then the panel in the orange, so it'll stand out a little bit on there, which is why I'm wanting to be able to bolt it on. Let's come along. Let me touch this ends up again, and then I'm going to start grinding on this end, and then I'll bring you back once that end's done and I'm ready to put the V in it, and we'll see if we're going to have to pie cut it or if it's just going to let me fold it. I'm afraid that just folding it is not really going to achieve what I was after, but we'll see. Worst case, we cut it, pie cut it wherever we need it. And I left it about a 1/4 inch long on both sides, so if I have to pie cut it or whatever, I've got some material there to be able to suck it in. So let's get that done. So when I started on the deck lid here, I knew about what I wanted to do, something really simple, just real subtle, not a big spoiler, nothing huge out there. It needs to be stable. It needs to be if somebody pushes down on it or was to open or close the trunk by using it, it's not going to bend the sheet metal. So there's a couple different steps after I kind of got the idea of how big I wanted it. So I basically ran through a couple different steps after getting an idea how big I wanted it, and I basically started with a 2-inch tall by a 1/4 inch flat bar, just flat bar steel. And you'll see that I started out with it full length without the bend in it, and figured out pretty quickly that this bend was going to require pie cutting the steel. So ended up cutting it in half, but anyway, I got it laid out, and I just basically took a steel rule about 1 inch wide and laid it down here. There's a body seam right above the lip here, and I just laid that on there and then used that to mark a line, basically 1 inch into the center and then 1 inch that way. And there's a peak right here, so I wanted to hang on to that peak in the spoiler. Once I had all that laid out, I laid out my spacing for my bolts, and I probably went a little excessive. Probably could have got away with maybe just 2 in here, a total of 4 on each. So I laid out my bolt holes and just marked the first one in approximately 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the trunk lid and 1 inch from the center, so that I had plenty of room, since I was going to end up with 2 there anyway. And then to lay out the gap, I just figured out how many I wanted in between here and used this cool rivet layout tool. And that's all it's for. It's just for laying out holes that are equally spaced. Used a Cleco in each one, started with an 1/8 inch hole in each end here, and laid that in. You see all that on the video. And then marked out where they were equally spaced. So you don't have one of those and you're doing stuff where you're laying out, whether it's just needing drill holes or rivet places, or even if you were wanting to lay out lines, all you'd have to do is mark the spot, and then if you have a square, you could come off of that with the line. After I got all that done, I made some slugs that I could cut holes in the back side of this trunk lid slide that slug in with a hole already drilled in it at the angle, that approximate angle that I wanted to come in. Ideally it would have been a little sharper, but not quite enough room to get most of them much sharper in there. But put the slugs in there with the holes already drilled, and that pushes right up against the inside of the skin here, and then I welded it to the outside skin, the underskin of the trunk lid.
Once I had all that done, I came in, calculated my angle for the spoiler, set it up in my vise, and just put it in my drill press out in my other shop, and drilled into the spoiler as far as I could. All of them penetrated, you see that. And then I tapped them, ran some wall thread in there that I cut down to about 1.25 inches, and made studs essentially. And as I got finished up, I ground them off and welded them in.
Oh, I got it on there, and now I don't like the angle. Let me see if I can take you off the tripod here and show you what I'm talking about. Let's see. It's shaped right. It's just the angle. Oops, sorry. The angle coming up here is just too steep. I need it to lay back. Gosh. Not a lot, but some. Let me see if I can get a protractor on it. Well, depending on where you measure it, that's measuring from deep in here is about 85 degrees. About like that. Just to roll back about 15 degrees, which is fairly easy to do. All you gotta do is grind that angle. Right now it's ground as close to 90 degrees. The scribed area that goes to the trunk lid is ground as close to 90 degrees as I could get it to here. So all I have to do is grind back on it, 15-degree angle, which means taking maybe probably not even 1/8 of an inch off the back side there. Let's see what we can do with that. So what I'm going to do is this in the vise over there, just grind back that edge so that there's a little bevel in there. I'll just play with it until I find an angle that I'm happy with. I think that's more what I had envisioned there. And it looks like, yeah, about 1/8 of an inch, I think. I'll take that right down. So I'm going to scribe a line on there. Well, you can now. So there it is. Now the angle. Took that 1/8 of an inch off of what would be the back side. Now it lays back a little better. And then getting deep in there.
Yeah.
About a 64-degree angle. Both places. It looks better. Things out just past the edge of the trunk lid. Alright, so I'm going to take you off I will take you off the tripod here again and just show you what I'm talking about. There you go. It's just a much better angle. Alright, well, we now have a plan to finish it, so I'm gonna go eat some dinner, but basically what's left on this side coming up will be, now that I have one hole located, I can use another magnet or two like this, get things pretty well lined up. Somewhere right in there. And then I'll come in from the underside, use those slugs as a guide, and just put a drill mark in every one of the 1, 2, 3, 4, the other 5 bolt holes. Just touch them off, and then my plan is to go get some all thread. I've tapped these for 1032, so I'll go get some all thread, thread it up in there, and before I do that, I'm going to drill a hole above each one of them through the face here, thread that 1032 in there, and then just plug weld that little hole so that that rod is actually welded into the part of the spoiler. It'll stick down through the hole and then tighten it up. It's all set. So, but I think that's going to work. And then the last thing will be is to come in, take this 1/8 of an inch to a little more off, and put a little rounded edge on there. Make the other side do the same thing, and then weld in this V. So it'll take another couple hours, but it's coming real close now, and then and when this is done, it'll be almost completely finished to be basically ready that I can run it off to the powder coater. And there may be a little bit of body work in here, which, and that's the other thing, is I got to decide whether I'm going to powder coat it or paint it. But if we need to do a little bit of body work in here, we'll do is take this off, spread some body putty that's high temperature so that we can powder coat it if that's the direction we go. Put this thing on, bolt it down, let it harden, peel it back up, and then just cut off all the excess, because we're talking just a minuscule amount, but that would make it fit the body line perfectly. So anyway, get that done, and I think we're about there. And what I elected to do was 1032s on the end, and then I'd already drilled this one, so I have 3 1032s. The others are going to be, 1024s. The others are going to be 832s, and when I do the other side, just the end ones will be the 10s, and then I'll do the 8s for all the middle. So you can see when I drilled these, because of the angle I put in there, so now they're, rather than being square to the edge, coming in an angle. So rather than have to drill through the face to go find them to put a weld on them anyway, now when they're all done here, once I get them set to the right length from underneath, I'll set them all so they're a nice length that's usable. And then I'll just put a weld on them and grind them off flat. Probably use the TIG, that way I can just weld them into the base metal rather than adding, because I really don't need to add any filler metal for any of these. It's one side on. I think I mentioned earlier, I'm going to trim that off, put a curve on there. It's just time to do the other side now. Which, now that I've done one, I've got quite a bit of time in this one piece, but now that I've got this one done, and I have already shaped, so I have already scribed in the bottom of this one. Did that the other day when I was doing the rest. So what I have to do is take that 1/4 or that 1/8 inch off the back, so it'll lay back the right angle. All right, I'm going to get on it. I'm going to scribe that off and get that ground out. With both pieces already mounted now, clamped the middle, welded it up, and then I've gone through and ground it off, came back and radiused I basically put an angle on here of like 55 degrees, I believe it was, and then radiused the edge, and I think it came out really well. So. Well, there you have it, guys. Bolted on, done. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm trying to think here. So I had 3 hours in it, roughly yesterday. Just kind of I had an hour in it. The first day I messed with it, where I scribed these lines in, and I know all this is in one video, but so in an hour that day, a little over 3 hours yesterday, maybe almost 3.5, but and then today I've got about 4.5 hours in it. And the only reason I'm telling you that is just because I've had different comments at times, people asking, well, how long does that actually take? So if you take that, that's 7, 8, 9 hours over the course of 3 different times that I've been out here. But it's 9 hours putting the slugs in, putting the bolts in, drilling it, marking it, filling them all, radius in the corners there, the whole bit. So I think it came out really nice, very happy. Decided after talking with the painter, we're going to paint it rather than powder coat it, just because we can fill a lot of this little stuff. He can do a nicer job filling across that bottom there so that we're not pulling the trunk lid itself out of any kind of shape. And yeah, I think it looks very nice. It's got plenty of support there. It's not, it's not flexing the skin, which is important. We don't want that to happen. So anyway, that's done. I got to get that to the body shop and turn it over so those guys can surface off the deck and make it all pretty. So as always, thanks for watching Allison Customs Project Car TV, and I will see you guys.
We've got a lot of work to do, just not a lot to put into a video. So as I come up with some projects, I'll let you guys, I'll get them filmed and get them out to you. But we'll get back, in the next couple of weeks, we ought to be back on a pretty regular schedule for at least every other Saturday, if not every Saturday again. So good, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching Allison Customs Project Car TV. Like us on Facebook and check us out at AllisonCustomsOnline.com.